If you want to join the Mafia, how do you do it? If you don't know what the Mafia is, it's a group of criminals that plan organized crime, and they basically make money by doing illegal things. Let's learn about the Mafia, then we'll start it. The Mafia started around 1840s in Sicily. Since it's a long time ago, it's written in history on how they joined the Mafia back then. Back then, if you wanted to join the Mafia, they had to completely know you. They had to know what you were up to since you were very young. This is an initiation procedure back in the day, but the rules are kinda the same still. And one of the same rules is that if you ever snitch on the Mafia, or if you're not loyal to the family, or without approval you leave the Mafia, you will be killed. The Mafia wasn't that big until they moved to America. All the mob bosses moved to America and started their organized crime in New York. But we're not here to tell you the Mafia history, because it's a very long story. We just want to know on how you can enter the Mafia. The stories that we're gonna tell you guys, it's out of a mobster's mouth. People that were actually in the Mafia. They either talked to the police, newspaper, FBI, or they even wrote books about it. Like Joseph Massino was a mobster and he spoke with the FBI. He was so in bed with the FBI that because of him, an undercover agent went inside the mob. To enter this family, you can't ask, and there's no forms to be filled out. It's very different to enter this organization than any other company because you can't choose them, they choose you. And whenever they need you, they'll come for you. Usually the ones that are chosen are the ones that work for the Mafia, but they themselves don't know they're actually working for the Mafia. These people are being tracked for years by the Mafia. They have to show hard work and loyalty to even be considered. When the boss is told about this person, he decides if he wants to meet him or not. If they decide to see him, they leave him a message and tell him to meet us here. This is out of Joseph's mouth. He accepts the invite and goes to meet the mob boss. He said when he met the mob boss, he said some stuff in Italian and he couldn't understand it. After all the talking, a person came with a knife. He told me, "Welcome to the organization," and he brought the knife and said, "I have to cut your finger for your blood to drip on this paper." A paper that had a skull on it. When the blood drips on the piece of paper, the mob boss tells him, "Welcome to the family." And that meant that you're willing to die for this Mafia. To join the Mafia, it's even harder than you think. You have to be Italian descent, and you have to have a sponsor that's actually inside the Mafia, and that's when they'll consider you. Joseph Massino's dad was Italian, but since he grew up in America, he didn't speak Italian. There's a lot of Mafia movies made, and whenever you want to join, you have to kill somebody. Is this actually true? They believe before the 1960s, this is how it went, and if you didn't kill somebody, you weren't allowed in the Mafia. They believe with this tactic, the undercover cops and snitches are not gonna join. The people that they chose were policemen, snitches, or the members of the rival Mafia. If they did everything correctly, they were a made man. But time after time, doing their job got harder, and killing people was becoming more difficult every day. And after the 1960s, the Mafia's problem got worse, and that was the FBI tracking them, which continues to this day. And that is why the Mafia doesn't have the power it used to, because if they move an inch, there's pictures of them. But what are the rules that a made man has to follow? First of all, you have to be loyal to the organization. Second of all, you can't tell any of your friends or family who you work for, what you do, and that's to the closest family members. They can't know that you're part of the Mafia. The next rule is that you can't argue and fight with other members. You have to treat everybody with respect and do as you're told. Basically, you can't just make up your mind and do something. And this is the reason why the Mafia doesn't let anybody just join, because most criminals don't follow regular laws. Forget about the mob laws. And that is why it's hard to find the criminal that listens and is very responsible. These rules were introduced because of Mad Sam DiStefano, a mob boss in Chicago that did as he wished. He would kidnap members from other mafia groups and torture them to get information out of them. Mad Sam DiStefano was fired from the mob. You might be asking, why didn't they kill him? Honestly, we don't know either. They believe what he did was gonna create a war between mafias. Another rule is that if you were even a cop for one day or have family members that work for any type of police, you are not allowed to be in the mob. But don't think that they don't work with police. There's a lot of bad cops that get money to look the other way. They don't know what the Mafia is doing or what are they up to. They just get paid and close their eyes. But what causes the mob boss to kill off a member? What rules can you break for this to happen? If you kill off a member yourself, do something that's against the family, or if you steal from the mob, you're gonna die. The worst thing you can do as a Mafia member is work against the family. If somebody does this, they have to count themselves as dead, because if you're on the other side of the world, they'll come and find you. You might be asking, what about Michael Francesi? A person that was in the Colombo crime family, but now he's a free man. They believe that he's one of the lucky ones. First of all, his dad, Sonny Francesi, is an actual Italian, and he was in the higher ups in the Colombo family. But when he finds out that Michael wants to leave the family, he puts out a hit on him. But after some times, the hit was removed. It's been around 30 years since Michael left the mob, but he hasn't said any real information about the Mafia. In the 90s, Michael Francesi was arrested for conspiracy. He was given 10 years in prison and a $15 million fine. After this, they told him you have to pay the amount and suffer 10 years in prison. But both of these can be cancelled, and that's if you give us information about the Colombo crime family. Obviously, he didn't say a word about it. He did his time and paid his fines. The Mafia started in Sicily and grew in New York. This is the original Mafia, but nowadays, Mafias are found all across the world. The Russian Mafia, the Chinese Mafia, the Yakuza Mafia, Australian Mafia, African Mafia, even Middle Eastern Mafias. There's mafias all around the world, and it's a group of people that do organized crime. If you guys like to hear about other types of mafias, please leave a comment.